Hello and welcome to State of the Economy. Today we have with us Mr. Anand Sharma, former Union Commerce and Industry Minister and presently a Deputy Leader of Opposition in Rajya Sabha, a very prominent member of the Congress party. Welcome to our show, Mr. Anand Sharma. I would like to begin with the recent controversy over the government's position in the WTO in regard to trade facilitation agreement and the food security issue, which have got interlinked. And you were the person who last year in Bali who saw that agreement through, and things seem to have settled, and we thought that there would be continuity in terms of the new government taking up from where the Congress party or the UPA left off. What has gone wrong according to you?
You see, it's either lack of comprehension of the complex issues and also one-upmanship.
Okay.
It is an orchestrated controversy by the BJP-led government. There was no need for it because Bali ministerial agreement was the first ministerial agreement reached ever since the WTO was established.
Okay.
So it took almost 19 years to have a ministerial agreement in which all the countries, 160 countries, were on board. India had forced the issue, which was not part of the Bali ministerial agenda, which people must understand. Agreement on agriculture is a separate issue, which flows from the Uruguay Round Agreement of 1994.
That is separate. You're talking about the trade facilitation agreement.
Now there were 9 agreements of Bali package. One was TFA, trade facilitation, for which India was one of the proponents. Because India is in favor of trade facilitation. Our own share has almost doubled from where we were a few years ago in the world trade. And most of the things India has done itself when it comes to bringing down transaction costs, electronic payments, electronic data interchangeability.
Essentially, trade facilitation is easing customs procedures, etc., and standardizing
faster turnaround, faster clearances. It just improves the overall climate of trading.
The Americans say that it will add $1 trillion to world trade if everybody comes together.
No, it's the World Trade Organization which says it will add $1 trillion, and which it will. But what has to be understood, that there were 9 agreements. One was the LDC agreement package. That had 4 agreements. India has already done the duty-free, quota-free market access in 2008. So India was a strong votary of a LDC package, including capacity building, resource support, which was agreed to in Bali. What happened on public stock holding for food security? People are being confused about food security. Food security is sovereign space. It's a sovereign right of the country. That has never been part of the WTO agenda. WTO is a multilateral organization. We were keen in Bali to protect its centrality, to govern world trade in a rule-based manner. Now, the issue of public stock holding, that's procurement from our farmers at the minimum support price.
Now, the support price had become the main bone of contention.
Not even the support price. You see how it is calculated as per the rules of the Uruguay Round Agreement. It is 10% of the cost of the value of the production of the product. That's the de minimis.
That's the subsidy. The price can go up to 10%.
No, this calculation is based on external reference prices of 1986 to 88. And we had made it clear in Bali. First, we forced the issue on the agenda because we said that we cannot be held to ransom
because that's patently
by
unfair.
dated rules, and we rejected that as unfair, unjust, and inherently flawed and loaded against the developing countries. Now, in Bali, there was strong resistance from US and EU. And India was sought to be isolated by the developed countries group. China, which is part of the G33, and G33 proposal was there at Bali on this particular matter. China also broke ranks and joined with them. So India was being advised that either face isolation or accept and do not push this issue. We refused to budge. We were tenacious. We put together a very strong global coalition. IPSA stood together, though the new DG, Roberto Azevedo, is from Brazil.
Okay.
But Brazil, South Africa, that's the IPSA stood together. The Africa group, the LDC group, they all came with India.
On what
And
position?
we had on this particular issue that there has to be protection, and the WTO, all the member countries must agree to renegotiate, particularly the agreement on agriculture, so that the dated rules of the Uruguay round cannot be used to challenge the right of developing countries for public stock holding.
The reference price of 86.88
Yes, we
must be
said
changed.
It has to
reflect today's reality.
Yes, we said they have to change. We forced the issue. We had the majority of the countries with us, and finally they relented. So one of the agreement in Bali, that's the Bali package, was on agriculture on this particular matter. It was said that by MC11, that's the 11th ministerial meeting, Bali was the 9th, a permanent solution will be found. Now, this is important. What the present government is confusing that it was only for 4 years. No. The first paragraph says that by MC11, definitely a permanent solution will be found. It doesn't mean that you have to wait for 4 years. And the next para says that in the interim, until a negotiated permanent solution is put in place, no member country will challenge another country. So we had complete protection.
Okay.
Now what they have done with the collapse of the General Council in Geneva, that A, we have lost the goodwill and trust. B, what India prevented in Bali, when we were being pushed towards isolation, we managed to have a majority with us. Now we stand isolated. That coalition has fallen apart. We were left in the company of 3 countries, Cuba, Venezuela, and Bolivia. Now the question is why all the developing countries have left us. Why the LDCs, for whom we have fought consistently, the least developed countries, also have blamed India.
Okay.
And the protection that we got is not available.
Can
Once the Bali package unravels, India is left vulnerable to challenge because we are in breach in one particular commodity.
Yeah, okay. So you're saying that there was one sentence in the Bali package with the help of all these countries that you said India.
No, there is 3 paragraphs. There is the proper agreement.
Until a permanent solution is found.
In the interim.
In the interim.
First, yes.
Until a permanent settlement solution is found, no country will proceed against.
Under the agreement on agriculture, the rules which were framed. That's the Uruguay round rules.
So you are saying that meant that it was in perpetuity?
No. The first paragraph says that by MC11, a permanent solution.
MC11 would be how many years from now?
2017. A permanent solution will be
definitely be found.
By MC11, definitely.
Okay.
So this means, and the second says that in the interim. Now it is not hanging in air.
So you're saying that if there was a 4-year deadline, the deadline equally applied to the developed countries to actually.
No, it is a ministerial treaty.
Find a solution.
It can be revisited only by a ministerial summit.
Yeah. Okay.
It cannot be tinkered with by officials meeting.
Okay.
That is what India sought to do. It was not they were negotiating a fresh agreement. That is only once in 2 years when the ministers meet.
So did you have a discussion on this with the present Commerce Minister?
You see, it's unfortunate, Venu. We had a healthy practice that when we were taking a position in multilateral forums, including in WTO, I would send the Commerce Secretary of India and the Chief Negotiator, and sometimes even our ambassador to WTO, to meet with the leaders of opposition. That's in Rajya Sabha, Shri Arun Jaitley and Shrimati Sushma Swaraj in Lok Sabha.
So you're saying they were not following the practice?
And at my level, I always used to write to them about the forthcoming negotiations, even before Bali. In fact, Bali started on the 3rd of December.
Like you did on FDI and retail also?
Yes.
Wrote to all the opposition?
Absolutely. On any major subject, I used to keep them informed. They may agree with us or not, but it was important in a democracy to keep the opposition in the loop. I distinctly recall that 2 weeks before the Bali negotiations or the ministerial summit started, on 19th of November, I had written to the leaders of opposition and we had them briefed. And that was not the first briefing. Over the years, they were kept informed. This time, that courtesy was denied to us. That respect was not shown.
So you're saying there was no communication from the NDA government to you?
Neither in writing, nor did they send the Commerce Secretary of India. Now, I am not supposed to be calling them because they are in any case, the way they are targeting civil servants, the kind of circulars which are coming up, even anybody who has worked with the UPA ministers in the last 10 years It's a very unfair thing that the constitutional protection of civil servants has been taken away. Naturally, when this kind of mindset is there, which is vindictive, which is discriminatory, so it is only appropriate.
You read in the papers about what position that they were taking, isn't
Oh,
it?
yes. No, I got calls from many ministers because I have been a minister for long and I have personal relationship which has developed over decades because of my political activism. And people were concerned.
So
They
now,
said that,
what do you think will
listen,
happen now? Is there a possibility that we fall between two stools? We have not signed the TFA.
You see,
we may not get
frankly
relief
speaking,
under food security under the
there are three things.
public stockholding.
We are
issue.
isolated. We have rendered ourselves vulnerable to challenge because that protection, that umbrella, is like when it is pouring, you have thrown away the umbrella. Why? Now you'll pick it up, and it is a very arrogant statement that no, after the vacations in September we will call everybody again. You are not the master of the world, that you will summon everyone and you will reject what you have signed on. Sovereign nations honor the treaties. It was a ministerial treaty.
But Mr. Modi has said that he had promised the farmers that he would protect their interests.
No, what has he done? What have they achieved? Let me ask Mr. Modi. Either he is misinformed or he is less literate about multilateral trade negotiations. We had secured India's interests fully in Bali. That is what Bali was all about.
So you're saying that there should have been some continuity there rather
No,
than...
but the other issue which you have sent the message that you are not for trade facilitation agreement. Why? Then the finance minister says the next day that we are in favor. Commerce minister says standalone.
Yeah, there's a contradiction there, but we will come to that. But after a small break, please don't go away and keep watching RSTV. Welcome back to State of the Economy. We are speaking to former Union Commerce and Industry Minister, Mr. Anand Sharma. So you were saying, you were rightly saying that the government is not opposing TFA because Mr. Modi's statement was that TFA is good for the country, but still they could not sign it for the...
First of all, ministerial summit decisions where sovereign countries agree have to be honored. It is portraying India in poor light, losing not only respect, but also trust. That's a serious matter. What have we gained? That's the question. Now,
how can we retrieve this situation? Even now, is there a possibility that we can retrieve it? Because there's some talk that by September they can work out some compromise.
Listen, first of all, this is also what compromise? The other countries are not going to take their signatures back. See, the government and the minister said that, and they were trying to punch holes, that it was not a perfect agreement. Even the finance minister Jaitley said so. My answer to them is that these are multilateral organizations. For example, I did say in Parliament that the LDC package is not as robust or perfect. It was only about the LDC package. But LDCs are comfortable that at least they have got something which they were not getting at all over decades. Secondly, when 160 countries sit together, it would be foolish to say and to claim that we will have an India-specific perfect agreement. Then each country will have country-specific perfect agreement.
So you're saying that every country
needs to find a middle ground. You have to find a middle ground.
Some small compromise every country has to make.
Spirit of accommodation. Otherwise, no multilateral global agreements can be reached. If we have to follow their mindset and their argument, which is in the twisted logic, then there would have been 160 agreements, not one agreement.
So are you saying that we have kind of painted ourselves into a corner?
Oh yes, definitely so. Definitely so. And we look very silly. And now we will have to somehow struggle to get out of that.
So if you were, say, Commerce Minister in the NDA, from this position, what would you do?
I would not have taken my country to this position.
No, but
we were
how would you
celebrated as a hero in Bali.
But how would you come back to some sort of agreement, compromise agreement from here on?
They will have to reassure the member countries that India honors its signature and its word.
Okay.
And trade facilitation, it's very
Is there a possibility that TFA is signed by other countries, majority of other countries, India is left out?
There is another danger. In Bali, we protected the centrality of the WTO. Those who were in favor of World Trade Organization, the developed countries, are no more that supportive because they are going for bypass arrangements, like the TPP is there, Trans-Pacific Partnership.
I know,
These are the plurilaterals.
Transatlantic partnership is there. Yeah.
TTIP, Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership between US and EU.
So there are
Now,
other
once
options that people have.
No, they are already moving on plurilaterals. So we are actually, we are not only hurting ourselves, we have ended up scoring a self-goal.
Okay. Do you think, Mr. Anand Sharma, you've been very active in the context of South Asia trade, free trade area, etc. And you worked a lot, in fact, during your tenure, trade between India and Pakistan, the liberalization of trade was,
Yes,
that's tremendous.
That's true. You see,
now, do you think that we can do something in a South Asia context? Maybe trade facilitation, nothing stops us from doing trade facilitation within South Asia context?
You see, but we are also part of a global community, and you're part of a multilateral organization. India should also be looking at, as we have done. For example, we have the free trade agreement, you can say, or the comprehensive economic cooperation agreement, which we signed during our time with ASEAN group of countries. We launched the negotiations for RCEP, that's ASEAN plus 6, which will be a very big trading bloc. But these plurilaterals or multilaterals, which we do, have to be supplementary to the global agreement and to the WTO. They should not be bypass surgeries which enfeebles the multilateral
So you're saying the regional trade arrangements should actually supplement the WTO agreements? Which at the moment may not be happening.
You see, we did with Pakistan, as you mentioned, with Bangladesh also, with SAARC countries. India, on its own, unilaterally, not on reciprocal basis or non-reciprocal basis.
We gave them a lot of access.
We gave a lot of access, and also
although not so much to Pakistan as to the other countries.
Yes, because Pakistan does not come in the category which Nepal does, LDC. But still, with Pakistan, we have been very open and generous.
I think during your period, a lot happened.
What happened? The biggest.
Will that be threatened now, given what is going on with Pakistan?
I hope not, because it is in the interest of both Pakistan and India and the region as such that we remain economically engaged. Once we have stake in each other's economy, once we invest in each other's economy, job creation is there. The young people, some of whom go astray even in Pakistan, they will come to the mainstream, and that is the only way forward to bring semblance of stability, peace and trust. With Pakistan, what we achieved was from the positive list to move to the negative list. Earlier, only 12%.
And that was a quantum leap.
Yes, quantum leap. Earlier, only 12% of the tradable goods were allowed. Pakistan followed a positive list system. That changed to negative list.
The bulk of the items are allowed.
Now 88% are tradable. So it is the reverse.
It's the reverse, 12% not allowed.
12, 88, now it is 88 and 12.
Earlier only 12% was allowed, now only 12% is not allowed.
Not allowed.
88 is allowed.
12% on the
So that was a big breakthrough.
Yes, definitely so.
Now coming to manufacturing, I remember during your period, you and Prime Minister Manmohan Singh had worked on a manufacturing policy to raise India's manufacturing to GDP ratio from 16 to 25%.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Modi has also spoken in his Independence Day speech about Make in India, and he has urged the world investing community to come and make in India. Now, what are the prerequisites for Make in India? Do you think they have a proper FDI policy and other reforms in place?
Policies are in place. Policies are in place. Mr. Modi, I'm sure, has been informed, and I informed him in Parliament during one of the debates, that a national manufacturing policy is there, which you refer to. 25th of October 2011, it was adopted by the cabinet, and it envisages to raise the share of manufacturing by 10 percentage points in a GDP from 16 to 25, 26. The principal instrument are the establishment of the National Investment Manufacturing Zones, which are standalone integrated greenfield cities of the future. 16 of these have been notified. Now, if we build these 16 cities, there will be a revolution in the manufacturing. Now, the smallest is 50 square kilometer and the largest is 920 square kilometer, which incidentally is in Gujarat.
New cities, brand new cities,
Yes. That is in
So these are the smart cities
Dholera.
that even BJP is talking about, isn't it? NDA
Listen,
government. Huh?
now these are not the smart cities, these are the manufacturing cities. They have been notified.
Okay.
And they are being developed by the government of India in partnership with the state. Single window approval mechanisms have been put in place, rules have been simplified. Land is the equity of the state. The trunk infrastructure is being funded. Budgetary allocations done. Japan is a major
Japanese
partner.
investments is already come,
5 billion upfront. Plus we have entered into currency swap and interest swap. And we have also got the step loan that is at for 40 years with 10 years moratorium at 0.1%.
So you're saying BJP,
so the money has come
BJP
about
mainly
50
has
billion.
to take this forward. That's what you're saying.
That is the only sensible thing to do. Rather than making grandiose statements, you have to look at the ground realities. It was not easy to put together land and the agreements with the states. There's an agreement for every of these cities. There's an agreement. Now, when investors will come, foreign investors, India has remained, despite the global slowdown, which also impeded the flow of capital, the first three favored destination for FDI purposes. Now, when FDI comes, it's a tangible investment in manufacturing in that particular sector. So naturally, when somebody sets up a manufacturing facility in India, it is made in India. It is made for India, but you also export. For example, now, Japanese, South Korean companies who are manufacturing cars, they are manufacturing here, jobs are created here.
To other destinations.
No, about 500,000 go only to Europe.
No, I want
to... We export, our other Indian companies are also there, 1 million cars to Europe. So what we are saying, whether it's that, take the case of JCB, these diggers. Now, that's a British company. They have established a manufacturing base here. And by the time Cameroon came a few years ago, they had already reached 100,000. Now, they are exporting out of India.
I want to, can I just interrupt you here? Larger point, a lot of policies of the UPA, BJP is carrying them forward. They even admitted it. Mr. Arun Jaitley, after the budget, said a lot of the UPA's social sector programs being carried forward. The UID program, Mr. Modi has said bank accounts.
Listen, during elections they attacked it.
So what is
they attacked everything.
So what is different now compared to what was?
That you have to ask them what they were opposing when in opposition. They are now become the flag bearers of the same.
So since they're carrying forward your policies, so at least to that extent you would support those policies, right? Since they are your policies being carried forward.
This also actually confirms one thing, that they were wrong when they were in opposition. It was political hypocrisy, partisan politics, and now they are appreciating our wisdom in policy making, in social security agenda. Now they are appreciating exactly what they opposed, including the
but at the same time, making you endorse those policies also, since they originated from you.
Because they were brought in by us.
Exactly, So,
and frankly speaking...
So is continuity good? That's what I'm asking. Politically, it's a good thing, right?
Yes, there should not be any policy reversal. Sometimes they threaten. India has never seen a policy reversal.
The only reversal, I think, has been... I don't know whether that's just cosmetic. I want your reaction on that. They shut down the Planning Commission, saying that they would set up a think tank as a replacement. But Planning Commission also did a lot of think tank work. So,
in fact, majority of the work...
do you think it was some aversion to Nehru? Because even the Nehruvian vision of IITs, IIMs in all states, space, satellites, which Mr. Modi proudly displays, why don't they concede Nehru's Nehruvian vision, at least on the economic side?
All the institutions of excellence, institutes of science, nuclear science, space science, was set up because of the vision of Jawaharlal Nehru. He called them the temples of modern India.
Why don't they
the entire public sector came during Jawaharlal Nehru's period. And UPA government doubled the numbers of IITs and IIMs. And frankly speaking, you just can't open an IIT like a primary school because the issue is of getting good faculty. Also we doubled the investment by the state in R&D from 1% to 2% of the GDP. We enter from one National Institute of Science to 5, one National Institute of Design to 5. So that's all what we have done.
So would you be happy if they concede, the government concedes that they are carrying forward Nehru's vision also?
No, but why this aversion to Nehru? Nehru was a front-ranking freedom fighter. He was a globally respected statesman. This year we will be commemorating 125th birth anniversary of Nehru. What Nehru gave? Nehru gave his life for this country. Nehru spent almost 15 years in prison. His entire youth was dedicated to the struggle for freedom.
But
these people, this shows their petty-mindedness.
Although Mr. Vajpayee, I remember,
Vajpayee was a statesman.
Did recognize Nehru's contribution even as he entered
I don't
the Prime
think
Minister office.
Mr. Modi, given his mindset and style of functioning, is even acknowledging Vajpayee's contribution. They keep on talking about 65 years of Congress rule. They forget that 6 years Atal Bihari Vajpayee was also the Prime Minister.
Sure, yeah.
We have always appreciated his contribution. You see, you can't belittle those Prime Ministers who have given a vision. Atal Bihari Vajpayee was accepted because he reached out and because he acknowledged the vision and the greatness of the thought and philosophy of Nehru and what his predecessors had done. Mr. Modi says that from Red Fort, but he doesn't acknowledge.
So let us hope that there is some sort of ideological patch-up on this counter. Thank you, Mr. Anand Sharma, for talking to us. That's all we have in this edition of State of the Economy. We'll be back with you next week. Thanks for watching.